Welcome to the Climate and Coordination RCAST, where every week we'll be discussing topics related to all things climate change and RChain's role in the solution. We will be discussing technologies that can adapt and coordinate massive amounts of data like never before, forming social architectures that grow collective intelligence, sharing and evaluating data planetarily, all while maintaining personal privacy and personal data ownership. A new decentralized economy is forming as we move from the third industrial revolution, digitization, to the fourth, decarbonization. By building a co-op, built on a correct by construction, concurrent, scalable solution, RChain is structured to build out the new technology that will be required for a flourishing regenerative planet. Please join us on this journey.
Okay, welcome to this week's iteration of the Climate and Coordination RCAST. We're very happy to be able to continue meeting every week and discussing the latest technology and updates in climate change and coordination efforts and other related subjects. So this week I have a couple of topics that I wanted to share with everybody. And first, I just wanted to say just that our hearts really go out to everybody in Texas and anywhere in the South that it's experiencing just these horrible blackouts and infrastructure problems. I know that a lot of people are really suffering right now, so I just wanted to say that we really hope that those issues can be resolved soon. So, with that being said, this first story might not really seem like a big deal, but I just wanted to really highlight that I really feel that there's really a change going on in the world right now in terms of who is caring about the climate crisis and what kind of attention it's getting. This is from Teen Vogue. And Teen Vogue, for anybody who's not familiar, is sort of the teenage section of Vogue, and it's mostly about fashion and celebrities and so forth. But one really cool thing that they announced from February 9th in the politics section is that Teen Vogue has a new book coming out called No Planet B, and it's basically a guide to the climate crisis. And basically what they did was they compiled a bunch of essays. It says 28 pieces from 21 contributors, as well as new contributions from current and former Teen Vogue staff. And basically, this is a collection of essays and articles that different young, diverse writers have put together. And it says in No Planet B, you'll meet youth activists pushing the government for systemic change. You'll get a firsthand look at the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. You'll travel to the Arctic and all around Brooklyn. You'll sit down with Greta Thunberg, get a primer on environmental racism, and learn why climate change is a labor issue. So I just wanted to announce this because I just think it's so cool that this magazine, which is not really known necessarily for this type of serious journalism, is putting out this book. And I love that it's also led by some of their own writers and their own pieces, their own research about climate change. It says here, climate justice is young, queer, Black, Indigenous, and militant AF. No Planet B demonstrates it is inexorably linked to racial justice, decolonization, and abolition. There's no turning back. So I just am really excited about Teen Vogue putting out this kind of a book. I think it really shows that that the world is changing, that young people are really focused on this and they're really dedicated to this. And so I'd love to know if anybody has any comments about this, but I think it's going to be a great book.
Yeah, well, as you know, I have a lot of faith and hope in Generation Z. I think that if we are to survive, a lot of the answers are going to have to come from from that generation. It's neat to kind of see this kind of like social awareness being applied to a magazine like Teen Vogue. It is an indication that there is some, obviously they've done their market research. They wouldn't put something in there unless they knew that it would appeal to their base. So that's it's a indication of a larger movement upswing happening amongst that generation, and so that gives me hope.
Gives me hope too. Okay, well, the next story I have here, and I have one little one after that. Well, actually, it's a big one, but I just want to briefly mention. So there's this one, and then there's just one more. I just stumbled across this doing more research about the United States climate progress in the past, month or so. And this is actually from January 19th, but this is from National Geographic, and somehow I didn't see it until recently. But this is a really great, brief, but very informative kind of overview of the climate crisis and its current state. And I thought it just did a really good job of explaining where we are. And I wanted to share some of the figures with you. The headline is, "These 6 numbers define the climate challenge in a changing United States." And then there's a subtext which says, "Joe Biden takes office during an increasingly obvious and destructive climate crisis. To rein it in, he'll have to keep these 6 numbers in mind." I'm also using this as a source for my next blog piece, which is going to be about basically the 3 sort of pillars to solving the climate crisis that I see, which is sort of an offshoot of the discussion that we had about Bill Gates the other day. So anyway, the first figure is 1.25 degrees Celsius, and this is the degrees that Earth has already warmed, which translates to 2.25 degrees Fahrenheit. It says that's how much higher Earth's average temperature was in 2020 compared to the late 1800s. Also, there's estimates here that it says it might be as high as 1.29 degrees Celsius or 2.32 degrees Fahrenheit. Obviously, that's a global average. So that's the first figure. I actually didn't realize that Earth had warmed to 1.25 degrees already, but that's a lot. There's a huge push right now to try to keep it below 1.5. That's going to be pretty tricky because we've already gone most of the way there. But if we can keep it under 2 degrees, then obviously that will be much better than, every fraction of a degree that we can limit on global average warming is going to be, lives, dollars, and wildlife saved. The next figure is 945 gigatons. That's the amount of carbon emissions left in the carbon budget to stay under 2 degrees Celsius. A lot of people don't believe that staying under 2 degrees is going to be enough, which is why a lot of people are still fighting for 1.5. But I think the likelihood is it'll hopefully land somewhere between there. And obviously some people believe that even 2 degrees is not possible. But anyway, the carbon budget, it says here, that's how much carbon dioxide remains in the carbon budget. That would give Earth a 66% chance of warming less than 2 degrees Celsius. Last year, even with the effect of COVID-19 lockdowns, the world emitted 34 gigatons, and a gigaton is a billion tons, of CO2 from fossil fuels, down from just over 36 gigatons in 2019. So basically it's 2 gigatons less, which is great, but we need to draw down a lot more than that. It says at that rate, we'd run through the entire remaining budget in less than 25 years. And some people believe that we could run through the budget a lot faster than that because emissions will keep rising each year unless, we change the course of the emissions right now. So obviously there is more power being generated from green energy every year, but we're still rising in terms of the emissions. So that is a problem. So there's more information about that for anybody who wants to read more. The next category is as 22, which is the number of billion-dollar climate-related disasters in the United States alone in 2020. So that's a lot. $22 billion climate disasters in one country in 1 year is quite the quite the number of disasters. It says that's much higher than the long-term average of 7 per year. So that's more than 3 times the average, and even more than 16 that occurred during the previous record-setting years, which is 2017 and 2011. And for those who don't realize, 2011 was the last time that Texas and surrounding places had a deep freeze, which shut down their power grid and caused rolling blackouts. So that's been about 10 years, almost exactly, since that happened. Next figure is 2035. It says that's the year when the Arctic sea ice might vanish in the summer. It says here Arctic sea ice has been dwindling and thinning for decades. In the not too distant future, 2035, the Arctic Ocean could be ice-free in the summer for the first time in 2 million years, which would obviously really reshape the entire planet. And it says also the Arctic has warmed more quickly than anywhere else on the planet, about 3 degrees Celsius since 1900. And it has accelerated in recent decades to 4 times the global average of heating. I'm not sure exactly why it is that the climate change happens more dramatically at the poles, but I know that it does, and I need to do more research about that. But that's important to keep in mind. Also, 28%, this is the next figure, electricity. 28% is the amount of electricity that the world gets from renewables at this current time. Obviously, that's going to increase very quickly. Jaguar, Land Rover, and other companies I know at Ford and others are going very aggressively towards electric vehicles, which is great. It says analysts at the International Energy Agency project that renewables will soon outstrip coal and natural gas as electricity resources, becoming the largest source of energy globally by 2025. So hopefully that happens. And the final figure in this report is 51%. That's the amount of Americans under 45 who say climate change has influenced their decision about where to live, which I think is a pretty interesting question. A lot of polls just ask, do you think climate is an emergency? You know, have you experienced a climate emergency? Things like that. But this is interesting because it's about their decision about where to live. It says that's the percentage of Americans under the age of 45 who've taken climate change into account. Deciding where to live via morning consult. Men are more likely to consider climate change than women, liberals more than conservatives, and young people more than old. So it's really fascinating. People are really thinking about where to live based on where the disasters are going to happen. And also, I think it's more common for people to think about family planning in terms of the climate crisis. That's my opinion, but that's what it seems like to me. So this is a great report for anybody listening who wants to learn more about what the current situation is. And I'd love to hear from anybody if you have thoughts about this.
I was actually just reading an article about from the Associated Press. This is from the UN. The headline is "Huge Changes in Society Needed to Keep Nature and Earth Okay." So yeah, I mean, we need a sea change in how we think of commerce and how we interact with each other internationally. It's going to take a massive shift in our way of thinking to solve this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there is some good news. On the coordination side of things, which I just wanted to share, and then Darryl, I'm happy to turn it over to you. I'm sure most people are aware of this, but I just wanted to announce that the Perseverance rover has successfully landed on Mars, and it already sent back pictures, which is so cool. So the David Bowie Life on Mars memes are circulating very healthy around the internet now. But I think this is an amazing feat in coordination. The Perseverance rover landed on Mars after a 292.5 million mile journey It took about 6 months to get there. And also the Perseverance Mars rover has a Twitter account. So if anybody wants to follow along with what is going on there, Perseverance is obviously looking for life on Mars and sending back pictures. And so if anybody's interested in following along, you can go on Twitter, whether you have a Twitter or not, you can view it and look at the rover travel around Mars, which I just think is such a cool thing. I'm so glad that it made it there okay. It says the rover will explore Jezero Crater, maybe I'm not saying that right, the site of an ancient lake that existed 3.9 billion years ago, so that's almost as old as Earth itself, and it will search for microfossils in the rocks and soil there. Follow-up missions will return samples of this site collected by the Perseverance to Earth by the 2030s. So this is just really cool, and I just wanted to congratulate NASA and everybody who is part of this, just because I think it's a great next step. And I don't know, I love to see that people can work together and use science and math to accomplish things that would have seemed impossible not too long ago. So it's just very exciting.
Yeah, it was really amazing to kind of witness that. There's an article in Politico that kind of ties climate to what you're just talking about. The headline is NASA doing preparatory work for climate push, acting chief says. Steve Yurzik said he will have a better idea of the Biden administration's space priorities at the end of this month. And so it appears that there's going to be more of a focus on climate change data research from NASA going forward. So there's a lot of great minds there at NASA. So I thought that was kind of encouraging information as well.
Yeah, actually, I was just at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is in Pasadena. I was there quite a while. Actually, it was quite a while ago. It was probably, well, no, it was actually now because of COVID. It was probably about a year ago, actually. Anyway, I was there and I was reading the mission statement. And actually, their mission statement is fascinating. I need to read it sometime on this call, but it talks about providing research and good data to the world. And it wasn't really what I expected. I thought it was going to be all whimsical and, starships and everything, but it's actually has a really sort of humanitarian grounding, which I really loved. And anyway, sometime I'll read this statement on this call.
Cool.
So another thing that I thought might be nice to discuss, if unless I could turn it over to you, Darryl, but there's one more thing.
Sure.
I just thought it was a really fascinating conversation that we had on the Wednesday call about the 60 Minutes interview with Bill Gates. And what I took from that is that there are three main components to solving the climate crisis, which is technology, conservation, and then also coordination. I'm sure other people will have their own opinions about that. But I thought it was really interesting to have a conversation about the fact that Bill Gates didn't really mention technology being a catalyst or a support for the coordination that he said would be so important. So anyway, I'm working on another piece that's kind of about this. So if anybody had any thoughts about that from Wednesday that they wanted to share, I would really appreciate that.
I find it kind of mind-blowing how these super rich, apparently super smart people seem to be completely unaware of the potential that blockchain can provide to all of this. Like Elon Musk, I can't, please, someone explain this to me, how he is so bullish on Dogecoin. And I've yet to even hear him mention the idea of how blockchain is more than just finance, how blockchain can, with smart contracts, can create a world computer that can like help us do unimaginable things. How come he doesn't even seem to have a grasp of that? Am I missing something? It's just shocking to me that these people who are so incredibly wealthy and incredibly smart and have teams of people they could just at a flick of a blink of an eye set up a team of 100 kick-ass developers, and they're not even going there in their mind. I'm sorry. Am I the only one who's blown away by this?
Well, I think that Elon Musk is, obviously incredibly smart, but he's also, to me, seems to be a little bit of a sort of playful person. And he likes to kind of disrupt things. I think in that way, he's a little bit like Kanye West. And so I think in some aspects, he's not quite as serious of a leader or CEO as some people sort of thought he was, with his invention of the flamethrower and this and that and the other thing. So I think maybe he does understand, but he's not talking about it. But I agree there's a huge missed opportunity there. Hopefully people will get the message soon. But yeah, Elon seems to me to be just somebody who likes to have fun and likes to make a joke, and he also likes to kind of make waves on Twitter. So I think maybe this is just another chance for him to just do that. I'm not sure for what reason.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Nora's assessment that, at least with respect to Dogecoin, I think he's faffing around. I don't think it's particularly serious. I think he's just being playful.
But when you have the potential of blockchain technology to do all the things it can do, and your decision is to go mess around with creating a meme around Dogecoin, like, to me, that indicates that he literally doesn't understand the potential of blockchain. He thinks of it still strictly as money. He's got his PayPal hat on, and that's all he's thinking about with blockchain.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That those people are largely thinking of it as a payments network solution and not a very effective one. So yeah, you're right.
It indicates that he's literally unaware that blockchain can be a world computer.
I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that a lot of it could be founded by a first glance look at the technology. I mean, this is what I was talking about in the prospectus/white paper, is that if you just analyze the surface, you look at the performance of Bitcoin and the other altcoins, and you look, and I mean the computational performance, and you look at the performance of Ethereum, you would walk away with, oh, well, this is kind of cute, but it's not real. And I have to say that, when I first looked at HTTP, I had the same feeling. Well, this is kind of cute, but it's not real. There's no sessions in HTTP. There's a way in which one's expertise can get in the way of seeing the bigger picture. Like in the case of HTTP, the fact that it was really stupid and not real was what enabled it to cross the firewall, because most system admins were looking at these requests to open up a port, and they look at the protocol and they go, well, you can't do anything with this, so sure, I'll open up a port. It's not a security risk. So because it was so stupid, and so there was a real benefit to it being almost childish in what it was doing. And of course later, it got a lot more sophisticated, but that was only after it had planted the idea in everybody's mind of what you could do with the internet. I will also point out that Gates, for quite some time, was betting against the internet.
Really?
Oh yeah, he and Nathan Myhrvold were thinking that they would come up with a connectivity solution that was far superior, and Microsoft had to do a big pivot around the internet back in the day.
Huh.
So yeah, I mean, just because people are smart and have a lot of power, a lot of that is, right place, right time kind of stuff. Which is not to say they didn't work hard or they aren't full of capability, but nobody gets where they are, without the help of many, 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 many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing I wanted to say was that, like, I feel like people that arrive to a certain place of success, however that's defined individually by different people, I feel that it's not always, a straight road. Like, people sometimes, like exactly with the example of Bill Gates or other people sometimes arrive to things a bit later, or sometimes they really have to stick to what they believe in. Like, I remember there was a story that Elon was telling about how there were certain astronauts throughout history that he really looked up to and inspired him to start SpaceX and everything. And there was some success with SpaceX, obviously. And then those very people that he really looked up to basically didn't like what he was doing. They didn't like the privatization of space. They didn't believe in him, and they told him that, I think. And he said that it was hard for him to, go on with the knowledge that the people who inspired him didn't agree with him. So anyway, I just think it can go both ways. Like, you can be wrong about something, and then you can maybe your eyes open to it later, or you can really think that you're right, and maybe there's quite a lot of pushback against that too. But yeah, I'd be so interested to know, like, maybe Greg, you can say more about this, but I would love to know, like, when the internet got started, like, what people thought the internet would be used for, or what people thought telephones would be used for. I mean, I use my iPhone to talk on the phone probably 1/100th of the time or something.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I think, the world is littered with examples. Like, I can't remember which executive it was, but they were estimating that the market for computers would be 5, that the world would need 5 computers.
I'm pretty sure I have 5 computers.
Exactly. So people can be smart and stupid at the same time. Yeah, I certainly have experienced that myself many times. Yeah, I think it's up to us to educate people about the potential. I mean, Van Gogh didn't end his life in a position of wealth, right? But now he's revered. So it's also possible for people to have visions that it takes a long time for the culture at large to appreciate.
Yeah, it conjures up a quote that I heard from Steve Jobs a long time ago that was real art ships. His whole thing was about, well, it's great that it's, beautiful in art, but it needs an audience. You need to kind of somehow also crack that puzzle as well.
Yeah, but the thing is that puzzle might not be cracked in the lifetime of the artist, is all I'm saying. So it could be very real and move many people to tears, but it takes a long time for that to happen. That may unfold in a period of time that's longer than a human lifespan.
Yeah.
At least today. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I completely agree.
how many people know about the pi calculus? Very, very few people know about the pi calculus, but it's a game changer in terms of the theory of computation. I mean, the world at large, I mean, there are many, many developers and computer scientists and mathematicians who know about the lambda calculus, but the world at large doesn't know about the lambda calculus. And it's a much smaller percentage of people who know about the pi calculus. And then, like how many people know about the rho calculus? Very, very tiny, tiny fraction. And each one of those calculi represents a major shift in thinking. The philosophical shifts required to write down those calculi are enormous. They're very large. I mean, there's a reason why Milner won the Turing Award, because the change, from the mindset of lambda to the mindset of pi is quite big. And and there's this, so it's very difficult for, and it might, one way to think about it is it might take all of one's intellectual energy or life energy to pull together everything that's necessary to make, even one tiny shift. So we can't fault people because they put all their energy to make, Tesla and SpaceX, or Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink, right? That may require all of his attention and focus.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I just wish he'd stop experimenting on pigs' brains and the little.
Well, and there's also the solar project and the oh god, there's one more too. Solar and the batteries. There's that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on, so he may not have the bandwidth to really grok what's happening with the.
But yeah, no, Darryl, I agree with you about the animal everything and all that.
Yeah, the thing is, if it isn't Elon Musk, it's going to be somebody else.
Yeah,
that's true.
There's a lot of pig brains being experimented on around this planet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is very true. But yeah, your numbers, Nora, they're so stark.
Oh, the National Geographic numbers?
Yeah, they're very, and a lot of what I've been thinking about is, I think it's no secret that in the US, one of the responses to the culture wars was for a certain subsector of society to adopt homeschooling and to grow an army of kids who had a particular outlook. This is really, what we saw with the recent shifts in the American political scene is directly a consequence of these kinds of choices. And I think what we have to do if we want to bring about the accelerated change is we need to go after education and the educational environments, hammer and tong. I mean, that's the wrong metaphor, but you know what I mean. We have to be very, very active in education. Get more and more children exposed to the ideas around climate change and the kind of systems thinking, or if you don't like systems thinking, a holistic thinking that allows people to see that there's one planet here, not just your backyard, and one planet means that any action you take will have consequences globally, especially if the fact that you're taking it means that a million other people are taking the same action. So I think that kind of worldview and the science that goes along with it needs to go into the schools and needs to happen as early as possible.
Yeah.
And then we have a shot at coordination, because we've got a generation of minds that are appropriately fertile.
You know what's so ironic about you saying that is that I feel that this past year, since most kids have not been able to be in school, they've really gotten a crash course on that very truth, that actions taken around the world affect them. And, the virus didn't start in America, but everybody in America missed, a lot of school. And, or if they didn't miss school, they missed the experience of being in school. And that obviously that's a virus. That's not the same as climate change. But I think a lot of young people are really starting to understand that phenomenon, that they can be affected by things that happen across the world. And I feel that this experience is going to make America a lot tougher as a society. And I don't mean tougher as in, warmongering. I mean tougher as in having a strong constitution, inner constitution, hopefully a strong written constitution as well. But America hasn't really struggled on this level in a really long time. And I feel like the struggle that we are in, hopefully coming out of soon with the virus, is something that I think people will remember for the rest of their lives and talk about for generations to come. But I do think it's related to what you said about the connectivity of the planet as one thing.
Yeah, I think the whole institutional kind of structures around childhood education are so antiquated and in largely need of updating. A lot of the structures of the kind of everyone at a single desk with a dictator and bells telling you when and where you have to go are all based around wartime ideals, concepts, right? It's like they were preparing kids for war and for working in a factory. And those ideas are still what kind of runs the school systems now. I feel really, really, really grateful that I'm in a province here in Canada. We moved from one province to another recently, and the new province we moved to has this new curriculum, and it's pretty darn amazing. Like, they've taken away all those kinds of concepts. Like, there's no bells, there's no single desks. Everyone sits in groups of 4 to 6 around a table, and they work collaboratively. There's no ageism because the grades are intermingled. There's some really fantastic kind of new approaches that our school is taking that I'm totally applauding. I think
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm blown away, actually. I think it's really fantastic, and it's showing already. Like, the kids are they're self-directed with their learning now. I never have to tell my daughter to do homework. I can't believe it. She just does it on her own, and she doesn't really get much homework. And the homework is, again, even the homework that she gets, it's more based on collaboration. So it's pretty darn cool.
Wow. Yeah, I experienced, just as an aside to that, I experienced a huge change in my education because I went to a public school with bells and the whole thing. And then I went to a boarding school, which was largely outside for the second half of my high school. And I was so happy that I was able to go there because it wasn't quite as progressive, it sounds like, as your daughter's school. But just the idea of not having the bells and to be outside more was really positive for me. And also there was a much bigger focus on arts, obviously, because it was an art school. But that was a really powerful thing too. Like, I wasn't gonna, live and die on my chemistry test score. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't the whole picture. And I felt a lot more excited about what I was doing because it wasn't so, I don't know, like little fractions of minutes in my day weren't micromanaged by people I didn't even know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So really powerful when that shift can happen. And also that when that shift happens for people at work as well, like I would argue the way that RChain works is way better, way more free, and it makes people want to do work more because they don't have someone breathing down their neck at a desk, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of companies are starting to realize that's a better way. I have a interesting article, possibly kind of controversial, called, the headline is, "How is Facebook Tackling Climate Misinformation?" And it says that Facebook has said it will start labeling some posts on its platform in an effort to stop the spread of climate myths and misinformation. The social media giant announced on Wednesday that it will be trialing the labels on posts in the UK, with plans to roll out the feature in other countries in the future. Although it has not said how it will determine what content will receive these tags, it could follow a similar process to the labeling of posts during the US election last year. Facebook attempted to use its algorithm to find posts spreading common misconceptions and to direct users to a, quote, voting information center, unquote. So from labeled climate posts, Facebook will direct people to its Climate Science Information Center, which was launched last year. Yeah. So, what do you guys think of that?
Can't happen soon enough. But, you know, we'll see. Yeah. Obviously, they need to do a better job of, you know, I don't think so. Yeah, this is a very complex issue. I don't have the answer to it. But I feel one of the bigger problems with misinformation, especially with science, is that the whole algorithm is designed to give you more of what you already clicked on, whether it's good for you or not, you know, whether it's true or not. So like if I was going to search for, you know, global cooling or something, you know, on Facebook, I would be inundated. Even if I searched just one time, I would be inundated for weeks after that, possibly forever, with podcasts, blog posts, and live streams, and all YouTube videos and everything, possibly across different apps as well, with, you know, these conspiracy theories about how the earth is cooling and not warming just from searching at one time. And I think that is like almost a bigger problem, like the way the algorithm works to put you into an echo chamber with yourself, regardless of the quality of what you're looking at. So it seems like that would need to be addressed as well. But hopefully like a labeling system might help people to be more curious about where they get their information. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like, it's still what Shoshana calls, engineered behavior modification. You know, it's engineering the behavior in a way that perhaps, you know, we as concerned climate citizens approve of, but it's calling upon a central authority to make decisions on this particular organization within the Facebook corporation. Is called, what is it called again? It's called the Climate Science Information Center, which is this internal department of Facebook. So it's this Climate Science Information Center that is determining, you know, what to label and what not to label. And so it's still, to me, it's still kind of like, it's just fascinating watching Facebook try to react to the bad press it's getting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just have to say, when you read the article, the first thing that came up for me was, goodness gracious, we need a decentralized social media network pronto.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to solve all these problems. We're still going to have these little information pockets and, all kinds of issues that we're going to have to wrestle with respect to censorship and free speech. But it would be so much better if we wrestle with it as a community, as opposed to having it controlled by a private organization that has a profit motive at its heart.
Exactly. Well worded.
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges with like solving a lot of these problems about media and climate change and just all this stuff that we always talk about is like trying to get the right incentives in place for people to do good things. And, that's one thing that was talked about a lot with this huge crisis in the South, in Texas and other places, with the grid going down. And, well, the grid is down in Texas, but the freezing is happening in other places, to my knowledge. Anyway, that there aren't incentives in place to prevent this from happening. Like, it's just, there's no reason for, of course, aside from altruism and basic human compassion, which is not always easy to find among leadership, I guess. But like, that is something that I think would be so helpful, is to try to get incentives in place for solid fact-based information to go online. And there's so much that we can do to incentivize people with power and money to do the right thing. And we're not really using that pressure enough, I feel. There's too much incentive for people to take the shortcut and to do things that, really damage society. So that would be something I would really be interested to explore more.
Yeah,
I agree.
Again, it's like the need for a sea change in how we think. There's something else that I just wanted to mention before we go, and that is that today is the day that the United States rejoined the Paris Climate Accord.
Ray.
That is so great. It's a little too early for champagne where I am, but spiritually.
Oh, it's 5 p.m. somewhere.
That's great news. I didn't actually realize that happened today.
Yep. President Biden signed an executive order to rejoin on his first day of office.
Right.
But today was the day we officially, or the U.S. officially rejoined the Climate Accord.
Well, that is one small step for humanity, one giant step for Earth, whatever. That is great. So, are there any final thoughts before we go?
I think this is a good place to leave it.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for your discussion. Please, if you're listening to this, please make sure you subscribe to RChain on YouTube. We're going to have lots of new content coming out soon. I know that Greg has announced some new efforts. So, and make sure you follow RChain on Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to become a member of RChain, you can do so at rchain.coop. So thank you all so much for a lovely conversation.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.